me up.
Close.
Turn around.
No,
not armbands.
Not quite.
Down. Daniel Andrews.
Who's got the? You got the camera?
No, there is Adam there. Hold it back there, mate. Like that.
Every Victorian values the right to peacefully protest about issues, causes, concerns. That's part of our democratic tradition, and it should be jealously guarded. But the only form of legitimate protest is peaceful protest, and my message to all of those who might participate tomorrow is if you're intent to come to the city to cause violence and harm, there's no place for you, and Victoria Police will come down on you very hard. We're not going to have people preaching hate and violence, destroying the good name and the hard-won reputation of our city and state. By all means, if you want to protest, do so peacefully. That's the only legitimate form of protest. Today we have people expressing their democratic right in a peaceful, loving environment, an inclusive environment. That's exactly the way tomorrow should go as well.
What's your position on people that wear masks over their faces at demonstrations?
Well, we're going to be making some changes to Victorian law to ensure that people who use masks to evade the law, if you behave badly, then you will be dealt with appropriately. And we have no tolerance, zero tolerance for anybody who comes to the city or any part of our state with a view to cause violence, to cause harm, and to damage the reputation that we have built so proudly as a progressive city and state, an inclusive city and state. The world's most livable city is not tolerating this sort of violence, plain and simple.
Then they ended up upstairs on his balcony and all the kids dancing.
Look at
I'll get off. I'll give you a couple of heads up later.
So the rally's not supposed to start until 11 o'clock. We expect a bus from the True Blue crew to arrive somewhere around 10:30. So the plan is to stay here. This is the rallying point that we've called up here. We will hold this space. Please stay together and be careful, and we'll update you as soon as we have more information. Thank you very much.
We're going to tell this True Blue crew, this vigilante group, they reckon they can bash brown people and left-wing people in the streets. They reckon they're going to do some soup kitchens to give themselves a bit of a community gloss. Well, we're going to tell the True Blue crew and the United Patriots Front that they're not going to rally in Melbourne. They're not going to stand their ground. We've got here first. We're going to hold it, and we're going to tell this fascist scum to fuck off!
Campaign Against Racism and Fascism organized this rally as a counter to the neo-Nazi True Blue crew who intend to march here in Melbourne around what they say is the national flag. We're here, as we always are, whenever neo-Nazis and fascists take to the streets. We're here to stop them from marching, because when they talk about the national flag, they're talking about hate-fueled racism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, and sexism. Those are dangerous ideas. They're violent people, and we will not let them take our streets.
What about the notion of free speech and right of assembly?
We totally defend the right of free speech and the right of assembly, and that means our right to stop them, to stop any dangerous ideas.
What about their right to have their protest?
They have a right to speak, but they do not have a right to spread their hate. They do not have the right to be violent and spread violence against people who are scapegoated.
But the police aren't stopping their rally.
The police are facilitating their rally, and it will not be a surprise if once they appear, the True Blue Crew appears, that the police will be protecting them against us. We're the ones whose right to assemble and speech has actually been curtailed over the past year.
There's a theory that having this counter-protest will give this other group, the far right, more profile and subsequently increase their membership. So why not just leave them alone and let their protest just dwindle away? There's a notion that by coming here and countering it, it gives them media attention themselves.
We've seen what happens if they were to be ignored. We know what happened in Europe, in Germany and Italy last century when they were not countered and a Nazi movement grew, a Nazi regime grew. That's exactly what would be happening if we ignored them. The other point to be made here is that when we are here defending our communities and defending ourselves, that is also being seen around the world and around the country. People who are scapegoats of their hate are uplifted by seeing an organized counter to these dangerous ideas and this thuggery. So it's terribly important for two reasons. For us to be here every time they show their faces.
After 15 years of the so-called war on terror, after 200 years of racist genocide in this country and so on and so forth, it's no great surprise that the far right in this country feel that they can take over the top end of Burke Street and goose step up and down, and that we'll just say, oh sweet, we'll just go around and keep having our cappuccinos. Well, it's not going to happen. It's really important that every single time that these fascists turn out and try to build their forces, we turn out in the biggest numbers that we can and tell them, you are not the master race, and tell them their dreams of world domination will not come to pass. Remind them that when they tried to take over Richmond Town Hall, they were defeated. Remind them that when they tried to goose step down Sydney Road, they ended up fleeing in panic. We keep turning out and we keep telling those Nazis, never again. We will never again witness the rise or sit back and witness the rise of a mass neo-Nazi movement in this country. No Nazis, never again. No Nazis,
Never again!
no Nazis,
Never again!
no Nazis,
Never again!
no Nazis, never again. No Nazis, never again. No Nazis, never again. No Nazis, never again.
Well, there's a massive misconception in society that somehow fascism was just some European phenomenon, you know, Nazi Germany, you know, Mussolini in Italy and so on. But the reality is there's been a long history of far-right fascist type organisations in Australia, and in particular in the 1930s, the period of the Great Depression, huge crisis in capitalism and so on. There were very large fascist organisations in Australia, massive armed paramilitary organisations. They consider there was up to 150,000 fascists under arms in Australia in organisations like the White Guard, the New Guard and so on, that engaged in all sorts of attacks on workers, on trade unions and so on, and which there needed to be mobilisations against. And one of the reasons we're here today demonstrating is because we don't want to see the resurgence of such organisations, which we've seen in Europe today. So here at the moment the fascists are only small groups, and for some years in Australia they're only small groups. But the whole Reclaim Australia phenomenon and so on opened up the possibility of revival of fascism as capitalism goes into crisis and so on. So it's important that we don't just let these movements grow. So we have the mass phenomenon. We don't see mass fascist phenomena like there was in the 30s. And even though fascism didn't come to power in Australia in the 1930s, those movements were successful in driving down working class living standards and ensuring that during the height of the Great Depression that the interests of capitalism were defended, bosses' profits were held up, workers' rights were undermined, the right to protest undermined, and society made a lot worse for working class people. So that's why it's important not to ignore these fascists while they're small, but to take them on and crush them now while we can.
These people are terrorists. These people try to use fear and intimidation to keep us off the streets and to instill those things in us. And we will not be cowed and we will not be intimidated. It's important to remember that they were standing against a rally which was asking for the closure of detention centres and concentration camps offshore. The neo-Nazis support children being locked up in concentration camps. That's the sort of stuff they believe in. The neo-Nazis were also opposing a rally calling for a treaty for Indigenous people. That's the sort of stuff the neo-Nazis stand opposed to. Fascists are not welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Fascists are not welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Fascists are not welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Fascists are not welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Fascists are not welcome here. Fascists are not welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Fascists are not welcome here.
The point is we need to occupy space. They have a clear goal today, and that is to get to Parliament House. That's where we are. Same as we did in Richmond, we're going to defend our space. These are the people of Melbourne's streets, from all the nations mentioned by Uncle Murray. From all those nations, we come together. This is a cracker. This one right here. It says very simply, unite to stop fascist thugs from the Freedom Socialist Party. Make some noise, man. This one here you'll know and love from the internet and also from the street station. It's Jaffrey with the Stop Racism Now banner. Make some noise. This woman here is holding it absolutely brilliant. It says simply, blame the system, not the victim. This one here is fantastic because it speaks to the campaigns that have risen up against these guys. And it says, Casey against racism, another movement. Socialist Alternative, as always, rocking up with their absolute rip snorter, the Australian government, a racist disgrace! It also wins for the biggest banner on the day, which is important sometimes.
That one's pretty big.
That is actually, what does that one say?
No, what does your banner say?
What does your banner say?
Yeah, the theory behind it.
No,
I'm just holding it. It says no to racism. No to racism.
It says no to racism. Sometimes plain language is important, but never forget we are having a lot more fun than them. It's very important to remember that. Yeah. We are having a lot more fun.
Yes. Aussie pride will never die. Hold it up, hold it high. Aussie pride will never die. Hold it up, hold it high. Aussie pride will never die. Hold it up.
What are you here? I'm just here to defend the flag, that's all. I'm just defending the flag.
Defending the flag against what?
Pardon?
What are you defending the flag?
These people, the bigot racists across there. Antifa bigots! Antifa bigots, they don't want to have the flag defended. I came here to Australia 36 years ago. I'm proud to be in Australia now. I've been naturalised from UK, and I'll defend this against anybody. These are just bigots. They don't want to hear the other side of the story. All we're doing is showing that we want this flag defended. It's got nothing to do with racism. We're not saying anything about any races at all. It's the flag.
What about refugees in Islam?
What's that got?
Muslims.
What's that got to do with anything? It's the flag. It's not the Muslims, anything. It's just defending the flag. These people here.
Are you with a group? Are you with a group?
No, I'm just a normal person.
Can I have a chat to you, please, sir?
Pardon?
Can I have a chat to you, please?
Why? I'm just talking to this gentleman here.
Yeah, I'll have a chat to you.
No worries, yeah.
Thank you.
We're here on the steps of Parliament House today to stop the Nazis marching through Melbourne again. In the past, we've pushed them out to the far-flung pockets of Melbourne, out to Bendigo, the regional areas. Now they're trying to assert themselves back here in the city. They've called their rally around loving the flag, which is obviously a response to the attacks on the Safe Schools Coalition. With the comments from Oswald, the entirely accurate comments that the Australian flag is a symbol of racism. The fascists obviously think they can try to get some kind of audience around that. That's why they're here today. Just a few weeks ago, the Lord Mayor of Darwin, who has ethnic Chinese background, had racist death threats spray painted on her house, and the media wasn't picked up by the media at all. This stuff just sort of is seen as perfectly acceptable. And of course, 2 weeks later, the left Labour MP Jo Cox was murdered by a fascist. She was well known as being on the left of the Labour Party, an outspoken supporter of refugees, an opponent of racism, and fascists murdered her in cold blood. I think that's a lesson for all of us that these Nazis are not just all talk. They are out to attack and try to smash anyone who stands up against racism, even someone who's not a radical. They're committed to sort of smashing anything progressive, anything that encourages diversity or multiculturalism, and that's why we need to reaffirm our efforts here in Melbourne to stop them growing.
Just in Parliament Gardens, just around the corner, it seems there are about a mobilisation of 40 to 50 fascists, and the excellent news is that the bus of freedom that they were hoping to get from Bendigo to Melton to Melbourne today, which was a 55-seater, only managed to fit 15 of them. So that's a pretty big victory on our side.
He's got great solidarity. He's a local of Melbourne. Make him feel welcome, Rashid. Thank you very much appreciated. First of all, I'm sure you've all recently heard about the controversy regarding the mask. I'd like to thank the unicorn over there, because that was one of the greatest masks I've ever seen in my entire life. Take that, government. Give him a round of applause. We received a lot of coverage for my last rap, and it was in the great words of Tupac Shakur. Now, I ditched the UN conference to be here because this is family. In the great words of Kathy Lewis, the UN isn't going to do anything about this, so we will. It's time for us to start making some changes. Let's change the way we eat. Let's change the way we live. Let's change the way we treat each other. You see, the old way wasn't working, so it's on us to do what we gotta do to survive. And still I see no changes. Can a brother get a little peace? There's war on the streets and the war in the Middle East. Instead of war on poverty, they got a war on terrorism so the police can bother me. And I never did a crime I ain't have to do, but now I'm back with the facts, giving them back to you. Don't let them jack you up, crack you up, back you up, and pimp smack you up. You gotta learn to hold your own. They get jealous when they see you with your mobile phone. But tell the cops they can't touch this. I don't trust this. When they try to rush, I bust this. That's the sound of my tune. You say it ain't cool. My mama didn't raise no fool. And as long as I stay black, I gotta stay strapped. And I never get to lay back, cause I always gotta worry about the payback. Some buck that I roughed up way back, coming back after all these years. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat, that's the way it is. I did raps based on Tupac Shakur, and let me just say that it is so sad, so sad that a rap that was made back in the 90s and the 80s is still relevant here today. A rap made about racism in the 80s, relevant today? It's true, but we're going to do something about it. So here amongst beautiful people, we're here to whip the United Patriots Front asses, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Last rally, there was one chant that rang throughout all suburbs. One chant that signified solidarity, one chant that signified their defeat, one chant that will echo today. It goes a little something like this. Help me out here. You'll always lose in Melbourne. 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 Fuck off, you little bitch.
No hate! No
Very simple update. We gathered here because the so-called True Blue crew and their UPF scum allies said that at 11:30 they would gather out the front of Parliament House to go for a walk or to go for a march and spread their hate and spread their filth through the streets of Melbourne. I want to update you. I want to update you on the size of their pathetic little gathering over there in the park. I want to let you know that at most they got 50, maybe 100 people, I'm told. It looks closer to 60 from the photos that I'm getting. That they're just sitting there in the park. That it's 11:45, ladies and gentlemen. And who's rallying out the front of Parliament? We're going to maintain this position right here. We're going to keep occupying where they said they'd have their pathetic little rally. We're going to let them know that they're not welcome, and by being here, they can't be here.
Racist, sexist, anti-queer, fascists are not welcome here.
Racist, sexist, anti-queer.
Fascists are not welcome here.
A couple of people have referred to the mosque protests in Bendigo. It's one of the scariest things I've seen in recent times, the sight of hundreds and hundreds of people applauding a fascist speaker like Blair Cottrell, who whips them into a frenzy of hatred of Islam. And then the far right started losing. They started losing in the appeals court, in the planning court, in the federal court, and this week it was announced that they have lost, the racists have lost in the High Court, and the mosque will be going ahead in Bendigo.
You're under arrest for assault. Is that doing anything? I'm getting cuffs, I'm doing cuffs. Oh yeah. Back off, back off. I'm going to roll this towards you. Yeah, towards me. Right towards me.
We need to detail the state with the port. Relieve the port, guys, so they can come down here. Okay, guys, to the right, move up and relieve that port thing. Relieve them. Relieve the port, guys. Yeah. I'll soon get taken out. We've got the port thing. Hold.
Orange section!
I'm on your side, man. Sorry.
That's us.
There's 2,000 peaceful marchers on their side. Come on.
Move back. Move back.
What are your badge numbers? Give me your names. Give me your names. Give me your names right now. Where am I being taken?
These last years do not represent the counter protest. Please report that. These last years burning flags do not represent the counter protest. There's 2,000 peaceful ralliers over there. These guys are idiots.
Who's injured? Someone who's some female, possibly a female protester.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land! Always was, always will be Aboriginal land! Always was, always will be Aboriginal land! Where is she being taken?
Paces forward. 2 paces forward.
At this point, we are going to stay here for the moment and assess the situation. Everything I have says that they are continuing away from us on Nicholson Street, but let's stay here for a moment. We're going to assess the situation, and I think a nice round of Nazi scum, fuck right off. Congratulations, everyone.
Just flanking them, they're going to hold at the end of the pathway. Wait for the bus.
Alright, so we're going to just...
Ronald, come on, push to the side.
Straight line.
Push up, guys, and face out.
So I asked you to move out, please.
Everyone grabs the flag and take it back to you. Tell us something about today.
It was just an expression of pride, community and solidarity. It was a great success.
So we're back at Parliament. The rally's done. The UPF and the True Blue crew didn't get anywhere near Parliament House. In fact, I think they just marched around a park. And once again, they were way outnumbered. They bussed people in. There was, 300 of us and maybe 60 to 100 of them. And their stated objective was not reached, despite Blair trying to spin it another way while he was marching around a park. And this is again a victory for the people of Melbourne. A reminder that UPF and True Blue crew not only are violent, racist and fascist, but allowing groups like this to form and rally on our streets is what leads to the kind of situations we see happening in Europe, where far right-wing groups are taking hold of the political system and the social movements, and it is something to be pushed back against. So anyone doubting the tactic of confronting the Nazis on the streets of Melbourne has again been proved wrong again today, and congratulations to everyone in Melbourne who came out and proved that there is no room for racism in our city, and we will not tolerate neo-Nazis on our streets. So congratulations for chasing the Nazis out once again.